Welcome to my channel. Today, I want to share a story that is not just history, but a story full of courage, dreams, and big changes. Have you ever wondered how a simple doctor, a young man from Argentina, became one of the most famous revolutionaries in the world? How a person with asthma, who was not very strong, could travel thousands of kilometers, see so much suffering, and decide to change the world. That person was Che Guevara. His life was not easy. He faced danger, hunger, and many challenges. But he never gave up on his dreams. He believed that one person can make a difference if they are brave and care about justice. Imagine a young man traveling across mountains, rivers, and small villages on a motorcycle, seeing people who had almost nothing. People who worked very hard but still lived in poverty. People who were sick, hungry, and ignored by the powerful. For many, this would be too sad to think about. But for Che, it was a moment that changed his life forever. He realized that helping people was not enough. He wanted to fight for justice, equality, and freedom. He wanted to help the poor in a bigger way, not just as a doctor, but as someone who could change systems and ideas. In this video, we will follow Che from his childhood in Argentina to his motorcycle journey across South America, to his meeting with Fidel Castro, to the battles in Cuba, and finally to his global journey as a revolutionary. You will see his bravery, his struggles, and his dreams. You will see why people still talk about him today, why his story inspires millions, and what we can learn from his life about courage, determination, and standing up for what is right. So stay with me till the end, because this is not just a story of one man, it is a story that can teach all of us how to be brave, how to dream big, and how to make a difference, no matter where we come from. Chapter 1. Early Life and Dreams. Ernesto Che Guevara was born in 1928 in the city of Rosario, Argentina. He came from a middle-class family. His father was a successful businessman, and his mother was a caring and intelligent woman. Che grew up in a quiet home, surrounded by books and learning. From a young age, he was curious about the world. He loved to read, especially books about adventures, history, and the lives of people who tried to make the world better. Even as a child, he was thoughtful and serious. He often noticed injustice around him and wondered why some people had so much while others had so little. But life was not always easy for Che. He suffered from asthma, a condition that made it hard for him to breathe, especially during physical activity. As a child, he could not play sports like other boys, and running or climbing made him tired quickly. Many would see this as a weakness, but Che turned it into strength. Because he could not rely on his body, he relied on his mind. He became mentally strong, determined, and focused. This early challenge taught him patience, discipline, and resilience, qualities that would guide him throughout his life. Che's early interests were very important in shaping the man he would become. He loved reading, traveling, and learning about other people's lives. He often thought about fairness and justice. He wanted to help others, not just in small ways, but in meaningful ways. When he saw poverty in his own country or injustice in history books, he felt a strong desire to do something about it. These feelings guided his choices when he grew older. Che decided to study medicine, and he became a doctor. He wanted to help people who were sick and poor. He believed that a doctor could change lives, not just with medicine, but with care and attention. As a young doctor, he treated people in hospitals and clinics, always thinking about those who had no money to pay for healthcare. But even as he worked, he felt that helping people one by one was not enough. He began to think about bigger changes, about helping entire communities, about fighting inequality and injustice on a larger scale. The turning point in Che's life came during his famous motorcycle journey across South America. In 1951, he took a long trip with his friend Alberto Granado. They traveled on an old motorcycle called La Poderosa, which means the Mighty One. The journey was not easy. They crossed mountains and rivers, slept in small villages, and walked through deserts. They met farmers, workers, miners, and many poor people. They saw children who had no shoes, families who could not get enough food, and sick people who had no medicine. For Che, this journey was eye-opening. He saw poverty, hunger, and injustice in every country they visited. He saw how rich people and governments often ignored the poor. He learned that helping people required more than just medicine. It required courage, action, and sometimes fighting for what was right. During the journey, he met many people who shared their stories of suffering and struggle. These stories stayed in his heart forever. He realized that his dream of helping people could not be limited to a hospital or clinic. He wanted to fight for justice, equality, and freedom. The motorcycle journey also taught Che about adventure, resilience, and the power of the human spirit. He learned to face danger, to solve problems, and to keep going even when the road was difficult. He saw firsthand the impact of poverty and exploitation, and he made a promise to himself. He would dedicate his life to making the world a fairer place. By the end of this journey, Che was no longer just a doctor. He had transformed into a young man with a vision, a man who wanted to fight for the people, to challenge injustice, and to make a real difference in the world. This journey changed Che forever. It opened his eyes to the suffering of millions and planted the seed of a revolution in his heart. He returned to Argentina with a new purpose and determination. Soon, he would meet the man who would change his life completely, Fidel Castro. Together, they would embark on a journey that would alter the course of history and inspire generations to come. Chapter 2: Joining the Revolution. After returning from his life-changing journey across South America, Che Guevara continued his work as a doctor. He treated the poor and sick, always thinking about ways to help people on a larger scale. But fate had a different plan for him. In 1955, Che traveled to Mexico City, where he would meet a man who would change his life forever, Fidel Castro. Fidel was a revolutionary who wanted to overthrow the dictator Batista in Cuba. From the very first meeting, Che was inspired. He saw in Fidel a strong leader, a man with courage and a vision for justice. Che knew immediately that he wanted to join the revolution. At that time, Cuba was in deep trouble. The country was ruled by Batista, a dictator who was corrupt and cruel. Many people lived in extreme poverty, while a few rich families controlled most of the wealth. Workers, farmers, and ordinary citizens struggled every day to survive. Schools, hospitals, and jobs were scarce for the poor. People were afraid to speak against the government because Batista's army was brutal. Che, who had seen poverty and injustice across South America, was shocked by the situation in Cuba. He knew that he could not stay as a doctor alone. He wanted to fight for the people, to bring freedom, and to change the country. Che made a life-changing decision. He left his medical practice and joined Fidel's revolutionary group. This decision was not easy. He was leaving his family, his career, and a safe life behind. But he believed that justice was more important than comfort or personal safety. He became a soldier, a revolutionary, and a leader. The early days of the revolution were extremely hard. Che and the other rebels trained in the mountains of the Sierra Maestra. They lived in small camps, often without enough food or clean water. They faced harsh weather, dangerous terrain, and constant attacks from Batista's army. But Che's courage, intelligence, and discipline made him stand out. He was not only brave in battle, but he also cared deeply for his fellow soldiers. He encouraged them, shared food when possible, and led by example. His leadership inspired loyalty and respect among the men. Che's skills and determination were tested every day. Guerrilla warfare was difficult and dangerous. They planned attacks carefully, moving quietly through forests and mountains. They faced hunger, illness, and fear, yet they never gave up. There were moments when defeat seemed close, when supplies were gone, and soldiers were exhausted. But Che's perseverance and vision kept the revolution alive. He taught his comrades that courage, planning, and teamwork were stronger than fear. Small victories, like capturing enemy posts or gaining support from local villagers, gave them hope and motivation to continue. One of the most dramatic moments of the revolution was the battle against Batista's forces in the mountains. Che led attacks, planned strategies, and often risked his life on the front lines. His bravery became legendary. Villagers and fellow soldiers called him El Comandante, the commander, because of his leadership and dedication. Even in the toughest moments, when fear and doubt were strong, Che never lost focus. Hunger, cold, and danger were part of daily life, but they did not stop him from fighting for justice. After years of struggle, the revolution finally succeeded. On January 1, 1959, Batista fled Cuba, and the revolutionary forces entered Havana. Che's courage, intelligence, and leadership played a crucial role in this victory. He was no longer just a soldier. He became a political figure, a symbol of change, and a voice for the oppressed. His medical background, experience with the poor, and understanding of social injustice helped him plan reforms in Cuba. The fall of Batista was a turning point not only for Cuba but also for Che Guevara. He had transformed from a young doctor into a revolutionary leader. His fight for justice had begun to shape a nation. Yet, even in victory, challenges awaited. Che knew that bringing change was not easy. Fighting a dictator was one step, but creating a fair and equal society was a much bigger challenge. He also realized that the fight for justice could not be limited to one country. His ideas, his courage, and his vision were destined to go far beyond Cuba. This victory marked the beginning of Che Guevara's political influence. He became an important leader in the Cuban government, responsible for programs in healthcare, education, and industry. But more than that, he became a symbol of courage, hope, and revolution. People around the world began to notice him, admire him, and sometimes fear him. Che's story was no longer just about a man. It was about a movement, a dream for justice and equality. But victory brought new challenges. Che's fight for justice was just beginning, and his ideas would take him far beyond Cuba, to other countries, other struggles, and other battles. His journey as a revolutionary was only starting, and the world was about to see the full measure of his courage and vision. Chapter 3: The Global Revolutionary. After the success of the Cuban Revolution in 1959, Che Guevara became more than a soldier. He became a leader. He was not interested in fame or power for himself. Instead, he wanted to help build a fair and just society in Cuba. Che took many important roles in the government. He worked on education, healthcare, and land reforms. He believed that every person, no matter how poor, deserved access to schools, hospitals, and land to live and work. He visited villages, schools, and hospitals, and talked to ordinary people to understand their problems. Che worked day and night, always thinking about how to make life better for everyone. Che's beliefs were very strong and clear. He believed in equality, meaning everyone should have the same rights and opportunities. He believed in justice, meaning people should not be poor while a few were rich. He was also strongly against imperialism, the idea that rich countries control and exploit poorer countries. These beliefs guided all his actions. He wanted a world where people were free, treated fairly, and able to live with dignity. However, being a leader was not easy. Che faced critics and challenges. Some people disagreed with his ideas. Some were afraid of the changes he wanted to bring. Even within the government, there were dangers and political struggles. Che understood that to create a better world, he could not stay comfortable. He could not limit his fight for justice to Cuba alone. He decided to leave Cuba and help other countries where people were suffering and freedom was denied. Che first went to the Congo in Africa in 1965. The Congo was in the middle of a civil war, and people were living in terrible conditions. Che tried to train local fighters, plan strategies, and inspire hope. But the mission was difficult. The fighters were inexperienced, the terrain was dangerous, and diseases like malaria were everywhere. Despite these challenges, Che did not give up. He worked hard, often sleeping little, facing hunger, illness, and fear. Although the mission in Congo did not succeed, Che learned important lessons about courage, determination, and the difficulties of fighting for justice far from home. After Congo, Che returned briefly to Cuba, but he knew his mission was not finished. He went to Bolivia to start a new revolutionary movement in South America. Bolivia was a country full of mountains, forests, and remote villages. Che and his small group of fighters faced extremely harsh conditions. They had little food, no modern weapons, and often had to walk for hours through dangerous terrain. They were constantly hunted by the army and betrayed by spies. Che faced loneliness, cold, hunger, and fear, but he never gave up. His determination to fight for equality and justice kept him moving forward. In Bolivia, Che became more than a soldier. He became a symbol. Even in the toughest moments, he encouraged his fighters, shared the little food they had, and planned every move carefully. He knew that one mistake could cost lives, but he continued because he believed in a cause bigger than himself. Che's courage and moral conviction inspired loyalty among his men, but the mission was always dangerous. There were moments of despair, when it seemed the revolution might fail, when supplies ran out, or when the army was too strong. Yet Che never lost hope. He taught those around him to be brave, to believe in justice, and to continue fighting even in the face of impossible odds. Che's time as a global revolutionary was full of suspense, struggle, and courage. He traveled from Cuba to Africa and South America, always putting the cause of justice above his own comfort and safety. He lived a life of extreme challenges, facing hunger, illness, betrayal, and danger daily. But his mind, heart, and soul were always focused on the people who needed help the most. He believed that freedom, equality, and justice were worth any risk. Even though Che's international missions faced setbacks and failures, his determination never wavered. He became a symbol of courage, hope, and moral conviction for people all over the world. His story inspired others to fight for justice, to dream big, and to stand up for what is right, even when it is difficult. Che was no longer just a leader in Cuba. He had become a global revolutionary, a man whose ideas and courage crossed borders and touched millions of hearts. His journey as a revolutionary was heading toward its final chapter. Bolivia would be the last place where Che fought, and it would test his courage, wisdom, and ideals like never before. His journey ended there, but his ideas, bravery, and the inspiration he gave to millions would live on forever, continuing to influence the world long after his time. Chapter 4: Legacy and Lessons. Che Guevara's journey as a revolutionary reached its most dramatic and final chapter in Bolivia in 1967. After months of planning and fighting with a small group of dedicated fighters, Che faced tremendous challenges. The Bolivian army, supported by external forces, hunted him relentlessly. His group was outnumbered, poorly supplied, and exhausted from living in the harsh mountains and forests. Every day was a battle for survival. Despite the hardships, Che remained calm, focused, and determined. He led his men with courage, teaching them that the cause of justice was worth any risk. On October 8, 1967, Che Guevara was captured by the Bolivian army. Even in captivity, he showed incredible bravery. He refused special treatment or mercy. He did not beg for his life or ask for escape. Witnesses said that he faced his situation with calmness and dignity, speaking quietly but confidently to those around him. Che understood that his life was no longer just his own. It symbolized a fight for justice, equality, and freedom. His composure in the face of death inspired those who witnessed it and continues to inspire people around the world today. The next day, October 9, 1967, Che Guevara was executed. His death was tragic, yet it marked the beginning of a new chapter in history. The world mourned a man who had given everything for his beliefs. His body was gone, but his ideas, courage, and determination remained alive. Che Guevara became more than a person. He became a symbol. He represented courage in the face of danger, standing up for what is right, and fighting for those who cannot fight for themselves. The image of Che with his beret and serious, determined eyes became one of the most famous and powerful symbols of the 20th century. Che's legacy is not only about revolution or politics. It is about values, courage, and moral conviction. His life teaches us that one person can make a difference, even when the challenges seem impossible. He reminds us that fighting for justice is difficult but necessary. He shows that dreams are powerful, and following them requires determination, sacrifice, and belief in something bigger than ourselves. Che's example encourages us to think about the world around us, to notice injustice, and to act in ways that help others. There are several lessons that we can learn from Che Guevara's life. First, follow your dreams. Che started as a young doctor who wanted to help people. His dreams grew as he saw more suffering and injustice. He did not stop when things became difficult. He kept moving forward with courage and determination. Second, fight for what is right, even if it is hard. Che faced hunger, illness, danger, and even death, but he never gave up on his beliefs. His story shows us that standing for justice often requires sacrifice and bravery. Third, never forget the people who need help. Che's life was dedicated to others. He reminded us that helping others is not just about money or comfort. It is about action, care, and commitment. Che's influence is global. From students to activists, from ordinary people to political leaders, his courage continues to inspire millions. Quotes attributed to him, like, "The revolution is not an apple that falls when it is ripe. You have to make it fall," remind people that change requires action, effort, and persistence. Images of Che's determined face appear on walls, t-shirts, and posters around the world. His ideas have traveled across continents, inspiring new generations to think about fairness, equality, and justice. Even though Che Guevara was not perfect, he made mistakes, faced criticism, and sometimes faced impossible odds. His life is a story of courage and commitment. He teaches us that bravery is not the absence of fear but the determination to act in spite of it. He shows that caring for others, thinking about justice, and standing up for your beliefs are more important than comfort, safety, or personal gain. Che's story encourages us to dream, to act, and to fight for what we believe is right, even if the path is difficult. Che Guevara's life ended in Bolivia, but his ideas, his courage, and his example continue to live on. His story is a reminder that history is shaped by those who dare to believe, act, and sacrifice. Che was not perfect, but his courage teaches us to be brave, think about others, and never give up on our dreams. Every time we see his image, read his words, or hear his story, we are reminded that one person's courage can inspire millions, and that standing up for justice, no matter how hard, is always worth it. If you enjoyed the story of Che Guevara and his journey of courage, dreams, and justice, please subscribe to my channel. By subscribing, you will get more simple English lessons through real and inspiring stories that make learning easy and meaningful. If this video touched your heart, or if you feel more motivated to learn English today, please give it a like. I would also love to hear from you. Comment below one lesson you learned from Che, or simply type, "Courage and Justice." Remember, stories from history teach us important lessons, and Che's life shows that bravery, kindness, and determination can change the world. Every time we learn and act, we can make our own life and the lives of others better.